Hello and welcome to session 3 on decimal numbers. Let's get started straight away with our maths meeting. Today we've got 8 squared. The small 2 means we multiply the 8 by itself twice. 42 times 1000, remember your place value grid. We've got a column addition here. Line up the decimal points carefully because this has 1 decimal place whereas this has 2 decimal places. Column subtraction, that's a 5-digit number minus a 4-digit number, and then a division. For the division you will need to carry. Okay, off you go. And let's look at the answers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark them off, take a picture, ready to add to Class Dojo. And if you get yesterday's work ready, let's mark them together. First of all, we were looking at the value of each digit. 4 ones, 4 hundredths, 4 hundredths again, 4 tens, 4 tenths, and another 4 tenths. Circle the number that has 5 in the tenths position. It's just this one here. Here it's in the tens, in the ones, in the tenths, and in the hundredths. It says write 3 numbers that have 3 in the hundredths position. These are just 3 examples. Yours may be different. It doesn't matter if yours are different, but they must have the 3 in the hundredths. So not directly after decimal point, but the place after that. Yeah, not directly after the decimal point, but the place after that. Okay, in the next section from yesterday, completing the calculations. If we partitioned or expanded 0.64, makes 0.6 and 0.04. This one we had to put them together. And this one we took them apart, we expanded them again. And in this one we were putting them back together, combining them again. Okay, Rosie is finding different ways to partition 0.73. You might have some of these answers, you might have some slightly different ones. It doesn't matter as long as they always add up to 0.73. You might want to get a parent to check those or take a really clear picture and send them in to me. Okay, let's recap session 1 then, which was to recognise decimal numbers with 2 decimal places. Can you use the stem sentences and can you complete them? Pause the video, off you go. Okay, let's have a look together. There are 2 ones, there are 5 tenths, and there are 5 hundredths. 2 ones, 5 tenths, and 5 hundredths. The number is 2.55. Well done if you got that correct. And from session number 2, to recognise the value of digits in decimal numbers. What is the value of the digit 4 in this number? Here's the digit 4. What is its value? Write it down. And let's look together in 3, 2, 1. It is in the thousandths. We've got the ones, the tenths, the hundredths, and then the thousandths. So it's 0.04 or 4 thousandths. Second part of this to yesterday's session. Partition 3.42. Partition, break apart, expand. How would you expand that number? And let's look together in 3, 2, 1. I'd break it apart into 3 ones, a 0.4, that's 4 tenths, and a 0.02, that's 2 hundredths. And expand it. Okay, on to today's lesson. So today we're going to be comparing fractions and decimals. So I want you to have a think again about this being a whole one and us breaking them down. We're going to be using this model a little bit. Okay, this time we're going to be using this to represent one whole. This is 1, 1. Okay, we're going to be splitting it up. It is made of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 squares. And the reason we've chosen a 101 is because we're working with a decimal system, remember the dec, meaning 10. And so I can really easily split this into 10 pieces. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or I can really easily split it into one piece, each square representing one piece, and that would be splitting it into 100 equal pieces. Okay, so this really clearly represents 100 or one whole. Okay, if I colour in just one part of my 100, I've got 1 out of 100. I could say I've got 100th. The whole thing is split into 100 equal pieces and I've got one of them just there. I could write 100th as 0.01. And this is where we can compare our fractions with our decimals. Remember, this is the whole one. It's split into 100 equal pieces. It would show us a hundredth. It's 100th. Could also look at it as 1%. Percent literally means out of 100 per 100. Cent is another word for 100. So I could also write it as 1%. If I look at it slightly differently, I've coloured in this time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 out of 100. So I could say I've coloured in 10 out of 100. 10 hundredths. Or you could think a bit about it as 1 out of 10. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns, and I've coloured 1 out of the 10 columns. So I could say I've coloured 1/10. 10 hundredths is exactly the same as 1/10. 1/10, 0.1. Okay, so you can start again to recognise and can be able to compare your fractions and decimals. Extra percentage there. It is 10 out of 100, so I can just call it 10%. Okay, I've coloured in a different part here, green. Coloured in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 20 parts, so I've coloured 20 out of 100. There's 20 out of 100. But I can look at it in different ways. Remember, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows here, and I've coloured 2 out of my 10 rows. So I could say I've coloured 2 out of 10. And if I've coloured 2 out of 10, I've coloured 2/10. 2 of the tenths. Doesn't matter whether I look at them as columns or as rows, I've still coloured 2/10. And you'll notice that 1/5 has also popped up. That's because 2/10 is also the same as 1/5. I'm going to pull out my pencil just to try and make that a little bit clearer for you. If you imagine that this bit here, poorly drawn round, that would be 1/5. These 20 here would make another fifth. These 20 here would make another fifth. These 20 here would make another fifth. And this 20 here would make another fifth. You can see that I've coloured in 1/5 as well. So there's more than one ways of looking at these. Don't get bogged down too much in that. Just be open-minded that you can write the same thing in many ways and they're all correct. And mathematicians use all of these different ways of writing them down in different types of mathematical ways. Right now, it's just really important for you to recognise that you can write the same thing in different ways. Okay, following on then, 2 out of 10 is 2/10, 0.2, that's 2 tenths. Let's recap, how many different ways can we write this? 20 out of 100, 20 hundredths, 2 out of 10, 2 tenths or 1/5, 0.2 or 2 tenths. Lots of different ways of writing exactly the same thing. Oh, and finally 20%. This is 20 out of the 100. Okay, our next one. Let's have a look first of all how many we've coloured. These are rows of 10, so that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 71, 72, 73. I've coloured 73 out of the 100. By now you should already be able to think about what does that look like as a fraction. 73 out of 100. If you already know, you can write it down. I'd say it looks like this, 73 out of 100. I would also say, I could have said it was 7 tenths and 3 hundredths. Because if we look at our tenths, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full tenths, and then 3 hundredths coloured in there. So 7 tenths and 3 hundredths coloured in. Or I could say 73%, 73 out of the 100. So again, different ways of writing exactly the same thing. Okay, this time I've coloured them randomly. Still doesn't matter. I've coloured 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've coloured 5 of them in. So I've coloured in 5 out of 100. Again, by now you should know how to write what that would look like as a fraction. It would be 5 out of 100. Have a think whatever ways you could write this number. And have to take a moment to write some of those down. Let's carry on looking together. We've got 5 hundredths, written it in words. 0.05, there are no tenths coloured in, just 0.05. Could say 5 out of 100 is 5%. And one I suspect is a bit trickier is 1/20th. Okay, this one I've coloured in again slightly differently. Let's have a look how many we've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Coloured in 25 out of 100. As a fraction, coloured in 25 hundredths. Or I could say I've coloured in 2 tenths and 5 hundredths. I know I've coloured in 2 tenths because I coloured in 20 hundredths. I could write that as 0.25 or 25%. 25 out of the 100 is coloured in. Finally, I could write it out of a quarter. And you can see again here, if I split my shape into 4 equal pieces, I've coloured in 1 out of the 4. So it also shows a quarter. Again, a little bit trickier to spot, but you might have seen that in the way that I drew this out for you. Okay, our last one together then. Right here, this is a whole one, this is a whole one, and this is a whole one. So that's 100, 200, 300, 10, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 326. I've coloured in 326 hundredths. 326 hundredths, or 3 whole ones and 26 hundredths. You could say 3 whole ones, 2 tenths just there, and 6 hundredths. Or I could say 3 ones, 2 tenths, and 6 hundredths. All of these mean exactly the same thing. Or I could write it as expanded addition, 3 wholes, 0.2, that's my 2 tenths, and 0.06, that's my 6 hundredths. Finally, I could write the decimal 3.26. These all mean exactly the same thing. They all represent this value over here. Okay, I've taken away the picture and we've got some of the different ways that we can write it. We could write a decimal, we could expand the decimal, we could write a fraction over 100, we could write the expanded fraction where we add the different parts, or we could write it in words. And I've given one example of each of these and we're going to have a look together on how to turn these into each other because they all mean the same thing. So expanded decimal, we've got 3 and 2/10, so it'd be 3 plus 0.2 plus 0.04. As a fraction, how many would it be over 100? Well, it'd be 3 whole and 24 hundredths. As an expanded fraction, we'd have 3 and 2/10 add 4 hundredths. And in words, would be 3 ones, 2/10 and 4 hundredths. And there they are. And if we start from an expanded decimal, 2 and 4/10 and 3 hundredths, I would start first of all by putting them all together to make a decimal, 2.43. Once I've got my 2.43, I can figure out it's got 2 wholes and 43 hundredths. Then I can expand it into 2 wholes, add 4/10, add 3 hundredths, and finally put it in words, 2 ones, 4/10 and 3 hundredths. If I had a fraction, 12 hundredths, I could convert them into any of these. I'm going to start again by converting it straight into a decimal and then working along. You might actually prefer to do it in a different way. But if I've got 12 hundredths, I haven't got any wholes, but I've got 12 hundredths. So it'd be 0.12. So I would start by putting the 0.12, then I could put the 0 plus 0.1 plus 0.02. And then I could think about expanding it. No wholes, 1/10 and 2 hundredths. And I can write it as no ones, 1/10 and 2 hundredths. Again, if I start with the expanded fraction, I've got 4 whole ones and 6 hundredths. I could fill out any of these, whichever one you find easier is the one you can start on. I'm going to start on the decimal again. I'm going to say I've got 4 whole ones, 0/10 and 6 hundredths. So I would have 4.06. I can then change it to 4 plus 0.06, 4 and 6 hundredths. And I can finally write it as 4 ones and 6 hundredths. Okay, and from the very last one, we've got words to begin with. Oh, make that appear. We've got words to begin with on the very last one. No ones, 3/10 and 2 hundredths. Again, I would write it as a decimal, 0.32. You can expand it, turn it into a fraction, and expand that fraction. And all of these would mean exactly the same thing. They're all equivalent. I can compare them all. Okay, over to you. It's your turn now. So first of all, what fractions and decimals are represented? So here we've got the fraction already written. Can you write the decimal that this here represents? Pause and work it out. Moving on, can you write the fraction and the decimal that this here represents? Pause, work it out, start again when you've done. Okay, our next one. Can you write the fraction and the decimal that this picture here represents? Pause the video, off you go. Excellent. And our final part today, we've got a decimal in the expanded form, a fraction in the expanded form, and in words. The first one's been completed for you, but can you work out these others based on what you've been given? Had a go at a few of those together. This is the last one, so I will leave you with this. Don't forget to take some pictures and upload them to Class Dojo.